Imagine growing up in a 1,000 square foot cinder block home with no indoor plumbing or running water.
We drank well water. I went outside the first 20 years. I didn't know what it was like to use a bathroom inside.
A leaky roof.
A tin roof that you could actually lay on your back and you could see the sky from the bed.
I wish the roof didn't leak, but that's what we knew.
To then becoming an NFL legend. Well, what if I told you this would not only happen for just one person, as Shannon and Sharpe would overcome every single adversity. From Sterling's dominance as a Triple Crown winner, game changer, and clutch playmaker, to Shannon's reign, a dominant Super Bowl winning tight end, a charismatic media icon. But to really and truly understand the entire story, we must go back to 1965, where it all began with Sterling Sharpe, who was born in Chicago, Illinois, to Pete Sharpe and Mary Alice Dixon, before moving to Glenville, Georgia to be taken care of by his grandparents. Their grandfather, Mr. Barney Porter, raised Sterling with the sole purpose of him becoming the perfect example for his baby brother Shannon, just in case he was not around long enough to do it himself. Shannon, who was born June 26, 1968, also in Chicago, would not be there alone, as their grandmother Mary Porter would take a train to pick up the Sharpe brothers and their sister Libby when Shannon was only 3 months old. Shannon and Sterling Sharpe learned the values of hard work and perseverance at an early age.
You working from the time you can't see when you get up until you can't see at night.
As they would need those lessons early, because at the age of 39, their father Pete Sharpe would pass away after battling cancer.
My dad died of cancer at the age of 39. There were 4 brothers. My dad had 4 brothers, and I think only one made it to be 50. So cancer is hereditary for me.
And to make matters worse, they would lose their grandfather, Barney Sharpe, to a heart attack in 1977. A man who played a very vital role in raising the Sharpe brothers. As Shannon himself stated this in an interview, "My grandfather passed in 1977. He was more like my father. My sister is more like my mother. So despite the 1,000 square foot cinder block home with no enough plumbing,
I would put water in the wash tub and leave it in the sun, so the sun would heat it up. It's cold at night, and I got a big old jacket on, and I'm out there in the woods going to the bathroom."
the family had each other. So the circumstances didn't stop the Sharpe brothers from striving for greatness, as they always had to work for every single dime that they had.
And as soon as we got home from practice, we had to go catch chickens, where we were making $1 a thousand. For every 1,000 chickens that were in that house, each individual got paid $1.
To working at the local soybean field, the hard work translated into everything they did, which helped them both excel in multiple sports, including basketball and track, before becoming the football icons that we know today. Sterling would go on to dominate the high school ranks as he proceeded to commit to the University of South Carolina. It took a few years for him to leave his mark, but during his junior year in 1986, he would completely adjust and figure out the college game, recording 53 receptions, 791 receiving yards, and 7 touchdowns, while his younger brother Shannon was beginning his college journey, committing to the HBCU Savannah State, mainly due to the fact that he had bad grades, as he too dominated in high school, but it was a decision that he would make all over again.
Knowing what I know now, even if I had the grade, Skip, and I know what I know now, I would still go to Savannah State.
Yep.
Because of the relationships that I have.
On top of the fact that the late head coach of Savannah State believed in Shannon Sharpe. So as Shannon learned and adjusted to the college game his first year, he continued to strive and work hard, just like a certain someone, Sterling Sharpe, who cemented his name in college football history during his senior year at South Carolina, racking up 1,106 yards, 10 touchdowns with 74 receptions, setting what was at that time the school records with 169 career receptions and 2,497 receiving yards. This year's performance led to his number 2 jersey being retired by the University of South Carolina, becoming only the second Gamecock to have his jersey retired while he was still active at the school, while Shannon, on the other hand, quickly adjusted to the speed of college football, showing even more improvement as Savannah State, his ability to create mismatches with his size and speed became clear as the offense began to shape around his abilities while using what he saw from his brother for motivation. Because now that Sterling's career in college was over, on top of completing a double major in interdisciplinary studies and retailing, Shannon was front and center to witness his brother achieve his childhood dream. His time at South Carolina was well spent, leading to him getting selected in the first round with the 7th overall pick by the Green Bay Packers in the 1988 NFL Draft.
Green Bay Packers select wide receiver, South Carolina, Sterling Sharpe.
And through 3 games, he only had 1 reception. However, on September 25th, 1988, in a game against the Chicago Bears, the Packers soon realized that maybe, just maybe, they should get this guy the ball more often. In his first game of that season, where he had multiple receptions, he absolutely dominated with a total of 7 catches with 137 yards, going on to have a solid rookie campaign with a total of 55 catches and 791 yards with a touchdown. But the Packers as a whole weren't good, finishing with a 4-12 record due to the inconsistent play on both sides of the ball, especially at the quarterback position, an issue that wouldn't get fixed until later on down the line. But that year, they knew they had something special in Sterling Sharpe. So what about Shannon? Well, he finally would have his breakout season at Savannah State, having 796 yards with 7 touchdowns.
I've got to catch this ball. I've got to catch it. When I went up, there wasn't anyone up there with me, and I brought it down.
Becoming the true and undoubted #1 option before having a senior season that would be absolutely historic. With NFL admirations in mind, all the hard work Shannon put in would finally pay off, dominating Division II football with a season that was full of Savannah State records that still stand to this day. He finished his senior season with 1,312 yards, 12 touchdowns, and just like Sterling, would also get his jersey retired later on in 2009, as he wore the #2 jersey just like his brother did at South Carolina, eventually getting an entire day called Shannon Sharpe Day at Savannah State due to his amazing play. But as great as his senior campaign was, there was someplace else he had his eyes set on, and that was the NFL. So after graduating with his BS degree in criminal justice in 1990, he was ready to prove that he belonged somewhere else, a place where someone close to him was already having an amazing season. 7 games with at least 100 receiving yards, leading the NFL in receptions with 90, adding 1,423 receiving yards and 12 touchdowns on top of that. Sterling Sharpe was already one of the best wide receivers in the entire NFL, but there was one issue: they would miss the playoffs, even with a 10-6 record. Still though, it was a successful season considering the year before, so the Packers looked to be on the right track going into the 1990 season. The same year, Shannon would finally hear his name called. But despite Shannon's great college achievements, he would get selected in the 7th round in the 1990 NFL Draft by the Denver Broncos, primarily due to the fact that those accomplishments did come against D2 competition. The unknown or whether or not his game would translate led to him falling so low. So Shannon began his career mainly on special teams until he worked his way up, because up until this point, the coaching staff was still trying to figure out where they could use him. You see, he was drafted as a wideout, but on scout team, he practiced some tight end as well, pretty much doing whatever the team needed until one day he made a huge impression on his DC at the time, Wade Phillips.
It's funny how it all started for me, because I was a tight end, so I was the big receiver, so I would always play Jay Novacek. I was always a tight end. Wide receiver, I was Tim Brown. I was whoever's going to get the ball. I put the jersey on who's going to get the ball. And so one day, coach put me in that tight end and says, okay, you're going to be tight end in practice. And so, they hold the cards up, and it says, okay, run this route. I was like, how you want me to run it? They just go get open. I was like, okay.
I can do that.
And so, I was like, okay. And so I just started boom, boom, catching the ball. And then I would throw the ball in the woods. I punted in the woods. And I remember Wade Phillips, who was our D coordinator at the time, and he blew the whistle. He said, Dan, put his ass in the game and see if they can cover him because we can't.
This would lead to a conversation between him and head coach Dan Reeves.
All the tight ends get hurt. So the trainer taps me on the shoulder in a meeting and said, Dan wants to talk to me. I was like, damn, I thought they said I was good. He gonna cut me
already, huh?
He said, no, we're not waving. Say, just sit down. I said, okay. He said, what do you think about moving the tight end? I said, am I gonna get to play? He's like, yeah. He said, but you're gonna need to learn the plays. Now, mind you, I'm struggling to learn the wide receiver plays. I don't know none of the plays. They put me in motion the entire game. So as I run behind John would turn around and tell me what I got. Corner.
Go ahead, bruh.
Although he did finish that season with only 7 receptions, 99 yards, and a touchdown in his rookie campaign, but at that particular moment in time, Shannon's main focus was to simply make the team, as he looked up and saw Sterling with yet another fantastic season. Another 1,000 yards, averaging his career high in yards per catch with 16.5 with 6 touchdowns. However, he dealt with his own troubles as well. The team will lose starting quarterback Don Majkowski to a shoulder injury just 3 weeks into the season. Initially diagnosed as a rotator cuff strain, he tried to play through it. That was until it would later be revealed he had completely torn his rotator cuff, leading to him having surgery around week 10. So with inconsistencies at quarterback, the Packers would regress from last year, finishing 6-10, once again missing the playoffs. And although Sterling was great, those issues would not get better anytime soon, as the Green Bay Packers would be even worse the following year. Don Majkowski could never reclaim his 1989 form after his shoulder issues. The defense also struggled, leading to the Packers making some changes. This less than stellar year led to head coach Lindy Infante being fired. It was a tough time on the entire organization, and it was only 2 things that could make them feel better. One was subscribing to this YouTube channel right here, Come for the Sports,
Stay for the story.
the history of the game. And the other thing was the fact that they had a superstar in Sterling Sharpe, who despite all the noise played great throughout it, only missing the 1,000 yard mark by 39 yards, on top of adding 4 touchdowns with shaky at best quarterback play. So Sterling was set as the guy at the wide receiver position in Green Bay, while Shannon on the other hand was still finding his way. 22 receptions for 322 yards and a touchdown in his second year. May not sound like much, however, 11 of those 22 came over the final 3 weeks of the regular season. This was also a period in time where the tight end position wasn't utilized like it is in today's NFL. However, thanks to the help of Shannon Sharpe in the years to come, we will see that entire narrative change, as he would double his yardage the following season, 640 yards, 2 touchdowns, as this is the year the Broncos and Shannon started to realize more and more that nobody could stop number 84. And the same thing could be said for the other number 84, having his best season stat-wise in 1992. This will also be the same year Brett Favre became the full-time starter after being traded from Atlanta. Starter at that time, Don Majkowski, would suffer an ankle injury, leading to Favre being inserted in week 3 against the Bengals, and the Green Bay offense never looked back.
In the NFL. Favre completes into flat to Sterling Sharpe. Favre throws down the middle and has a touchdown to Sterling Sharpe. Favre unlooses it and gets it to Sterling Sharpe. Favre punts, throws, touchdown!
Sterling would end the day with 109 yards and 1 touchdown in a come-from-behind win, 24-23, and the rest, well, is history. 107 yards and a touchdown in week 5.
This is one of the best guys after the catch in the league.
144 and a touchdown in week 8. 160 and 1 touchdown in week 10. The Favre to Sharpe connection was a thing of beauty. 7 games with at least 100 or more receiving yards, finishing the year with an insane stat line with 108 receptions, 1,461 receiving yards, and 13 touchdowns, becoming the first player in NFL history to catch over 100 passes in 2 different seasons. This would also be the year he won the NFL Triple Crown, leading the entire league in receiving yards, touchdowns, as well as receptions. But there would be one thing missing from Sterling's NFL career, and that was a playoff appearance. That would change the following year, as we would quickly see in the first week of that season. On September the 5th, 1993, in a matchup against the Rams, Sterling would absolutely absolutely dominate. 7 receptions, 120 yards with 1 touchdown, as we would go on to see this dominance continue the entirety of the season. In week 8, 10 receptions, 147 yards with a career high 4 touchdowns. He had at least 10 receptions 3 times this season. And as great of a season this may have been, the Packers suffered a loss to the Lions in week 18 where Sterling only had 6 receptions for 33 yards. This game could have clinched what was the NFC Central at that time for the Packers. Instead though, the Lions would go on to win the division. Brett did have 4 interceptions, but I digress. It was still a fantastic season for Sterling Sharpe, breaking what was at that time the NFL record in receptions with 112. He held the previous record with his former 108 from last season. At the same time though, the Packers would finish 9-7, securing Green Bay's first postseason appearance since 1982. So on January the 8th of 1994, we finally got to see Sterling Sharpe in postseason action, and it was against that very same Detroit Lions team that they lost to with what was possibly and arguably his worst statistical game of that season just 1 week before, and the results this time will be very interesting.
On a quick snap, second down. Favre with daylight and time goes for the whole thing. Touchdown! Green Bay leads. Brett Favre, 40 yards, and Sterling Sharpe's 3rd touchdown of the game. 55 seconds left for the Lions.
5 receptions, 101 yards, 3 touchdowns with a game-winning 40-yard touchdown catch to defeat Barry Sanders and the Detroit Lions 28-24. One of the greatest moments in Green Bay playoff history. They would unfortunately lose to the Super Bowl winning Dallas Cowboys 27-17 the following week, although Sterling did play well. However, this season in particular gave the Packers and NFL fans alike hope that we would see this superstar for many more years to come. Speaking of superstars though, let's check in on Shannon, who was having an impressive season and was beginning to separate himself from the other players at his position, which would be on full display in the first game of the season. 7 receptions for 79 yards, as every other week you would see flashes of greatness. Week 3, 9 receptions for 81 yards. And did I also forget to mention that we would get to see the Sharpe brothers share the same field again, the first time being Shannon's rookie year. But his rookie year, Shannon did not see the field much, and this time will be completely different. Sterling's squad will come out on top 30-27. He finished with 10 receptions for 70 yards, while Shannon added 7 receptions for 55 yards and continued on with his great season. Week 11, 7 receptions for 104 yards, and in the final game of that season, he would finish with 6 receptions for 115 yards. The Broncos would, oddly enough, finish with the same record as the Green Bay Packers, which was 9-7. They would also make the playoffs and
open has it, and it is Shannon Sharpe, the man with the big smile and the cred.
not have the same success in the wild card as the Packers. However, Shannon absolutely dominated. 156 yards, 13 receptions with 1 touchdown in the 24-42 loss to the Raiders. And although this would be a disappointing ending, it was the beginning of something special for not only Shannon, but the tight end position as a whole. He led the team in receiving yards, missing the 1,000-yard mark in the regular season by only 5 yards, adding 9 touchdowns and 81 receptions. But the following year for Shannon would be something special. He would reach the 1,000-yard mark for the first time in his career with 87 receptions, despite missing time early that season. His brother would do the same thing. 1,119 receiving yards, 94 receptions, a season that had siblings doing something that they could only dream of as kids. That was until that dream became an unfortunate nightmare. On December 18th, 1994, in a game against the Atlanta Falcons, Sterling would get injured during what looked to be a normal blocking move. Oddly enough, he would get up after this and would be diagnosed at that time with a stinger. So not only did he come back from what looked to be a scary injury, he would go on to play the following week and have the game of his life. 9 receptions, 132 yards with 3 touchdowns before being re-injured at some point in time during that game. Something wasn't right, as this this would be the last game of Sterling Sharpe's career, after further testing revealed he had a serious neck injury that required surgery. It would also be the best year the brothers would have as a collective in the NFL, but it would also be the saddest.
I want to play again. And no, I don't care who I play for. But, you know, and if everything continues to progress like it is, you know, if we go through all the rehab and the hitting process at the beginning of next year and everything feels fine and somebody give me an opportunity to play, I'll take it.
And the doctor advised you, he said, if you were my son, I would advise you not to play again. And I remember you calling me and we having a conversation.
And you cried.
I wish we could have gotten the playoffs a little earlier. I wish we could have gotten a little better in the playoffs and gotten a little farther. I wish I could have played in the Super Bowl. But those things, that's the thing you take when you know, price you pay when you go out for this team.
What was disappointing was where my team was at that time.
Right.
Where you were in your career at that time. Finally, you decided to play some good football and join your brothers, one of the best players in the league. Took a while, but you finally got there. So I think that was the disappointing thing is my team was getting so much better.
Everybody's not going to have the same type of success. So I understand that. I welcome it. You know, and I'm looking forward to the rest of my life. If it's coming back and playing football for 2, 4, 5 more years, I'm looking forward to that. If it's not, then, you know, I'm really excited about, you know, really seeing what type of guy I am as far as going out and convincing somebody that I can do a job for them and make their company a little better.
And you were starting to establish yourself as one of the best, not in the AFC, but in football. It's not ironic that a few years later, your team and my old team met in the Super Bowl.
It was the end of a career and the beginning of one of the biggest what-if stories in the entire NFL. A total of 595 receptions, 8,134 yards with 65 touchdowns. A guy who started in all 112 games he was a part of, 5 Pro Bowls, a 3-time first-team All-Pro. He led the NFL in receptions 3 times and receiving touchdowns 2 times. A truly great career in just a 7-year span. And one could only assume that it was at this moment in time Shannon realized he had to step up for the entire family, because what we would witness over the next few years was nothing short of greatness. But before we get into that, what exactly did this mean for Sterling? Well, he was working in another profession, media, working for ESPN at the time, where he provided a different context, a different analyst on the game of football that was missing from that time. As he wasn't the first player to become a media personality or a sports analyst, however, I'm certain that he inspired and influenced an entire generation of former players and showed that it was also possible to do so. But if no one else was motivated by Sterling, there was his baby brother Shannon, who was lighting it up in the league. 756 yards and 4 touchdowns in 95. Another 1,000-yard season and 4 touchdowns in 96. Everyone knew Shannon was a problem, and only one thing could help defenses at the time.
I'm calling the president. President, we need a National Guard. We need as many men as you can spare because we are killing the Patriots. So call the dogs off. Send the National Guard, please. They need emergency help. Please help these folks.
And if that didn't work, subscribing to this YouTube channel right here would help everybody feel just a little bit better. However, even though Shannon's career was getting better and better, there was still one thing missing from his already great career, and that was a Super Bowl. But that would soon change. In 1997, Shannon would record his third 1,000-yard season at 149 yards in the playoffs with 12 receptions. You add the fact that Terrell Davis and John Elway were balling. The Broncos would go on to win their first championship. And although Shannon put in a lot of work from a physical perspective, he would not have been there if it was not for one man.
The situation with your brother, what was your thought seeing him, his trajectory to sustain a career-ending neck injury? What was the thoughts on that?
Man, that broke me, man. That's still one of the 2 or 3 saddest days of my career when he told me, say, it's over for me, bro. He told me it's on you now. And so we get to the Super Bowl in 97, and we're doing an interview with NBC, and we're sitting down talking. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna give him the Super Bowl ring. And he looks at me, he's like, well, he had no idea that I was gonna do that, because that's the culmination, that's the crescendo of your particular sport. You win that ring. But for me, That's not possible without him. And so the only way I can say, bruh, thank you for everything that you've done. There's no way I'm accomplishing this without him. That's what it's always been. That's why I don't wear the ring. For me, the ring, it symbolizes something different for everybody. But for me, I wanted him to have that ring because it would mean more to him than it ever would for me.
But what many do not realize is the fact that if it wasn't for the career-ending injury, Sterling Sharpe more than likely would have won a Super Bowl in the 1996-97 season and played against his brother in a Super Bowl the following year, which may or may not have played a part in his decision, on top of knowing that without Sterling, he would not have been in the position that he was in, a position the following year the Broncos would see once again. Shannon was on top of the world, a two-time champion on a great team, but after that Super Bowl win, John Elway would announce his retirement, and the Broncos as a whole could not recapture that same success, losing the first 4 games of the following season, and then Shannon would break his collarbone, ending his season as well as his career in Mile High City, at least for now, as he would go on to sign with the Baltimore Ravens the following year. As we would see, this would be a smooth transition. In his first year with the Baltimore Ravens, he had 810 yards, as they would indeed go on a playoff run, led by one of the greatest defenses we would ever see in the NFL, that was capped off with Shannon Sharpe's 3rd Super Bowl win, that would unfortunately come up short the following year, despite Shannon having yet another 800-yard season. It was his last year with the team, before Shannon would return for another stint with the Denver Broncos, signing back with them in 2002. They would not have much team success in his last 2 years there, but Shannon was still very productive, recording a career-high 214 yards in a 37-34 overtime win over the Kansas City Chiefs, 686 yards, 3 touchdowns that year. The following year, 770 yards, 8 touchdowns. Shannon still had plenty of gas left in the tank. However, he would announce his retirement in 2004.
I still want to come back. So it's not a good time, it's not a bad time. It was just time.
In order to take advantage of a position at CBS, he finished his career with over 10,000 yards, 62 touchdowns, and 815 receptions. He was an 8-time Pro Bowl player and a 4-time All-Pro, ending his career to start a new journey in media just like his brother, who around this time transitioned from ESPN to NFL Network. Sterling began working at NFL Network from 2003 to 2015, where he continued to provide excellent coverage of the game, where we would finally see his personality on full display.
I think he's going to pick the Colts just because he doesn't want to agree with me, so we'll kick it back out. No, not for that reason. We'll kick it back out to you.
Shannon would begin his post-career journey with CBS Sports around 2004 to 2014. And in between that time, in 2011, Shannon would be recognized for his greatness, being selected to the Hall of Fame.
And Sterling Sharpe called you and congratulated you.
Sal meant the world to me. He's my best friend, my big brother. He's like a father to me. And I played football because he played. I wanted to be just like him when we were growing up. He told me how to be a professional, both on and off the field. Told me how to go about my business. And I was talking to Rich Eisen. I'm so excited for this moment. But if I could switch places and give the speech and he get inducted into the Hall of Fame, I would change that because that's how much he means to me.
But before Shannon would be selected into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2011, which was a great accomplishment, it would be just 1 month before his Hall of Fame speech, the brother's grandmother would be called home.
How do you start to say thank you, Granny, for a woman that raises 9 of her kids and your mom's 3? And she sacrificed more for her grands than she did her own. I said, Granny, what do you want? She said, son, I want a decent home. And her words verbatim is, she said, son, I want to go to bed one night. And she said, I want God to let it rain as hard as he possibly can. And I want him to let it rain all night long. And she said, I want to wake up and not be wet. My big brother Sterling, I'm the only player of 267 men that's walked through this building to my left that can honestly say this. I'm the only pro football player that's in the Hall of Fame, and I'm the second best player in my own family.
One of the most memorable Hall of Fame speeches of all time. He has an ability to convey and deliver stories and talking points which helped him in his newfound career in media. The same way I am hoping to do so. With that, please subscribe,
Or you're gonna make Ocho cry.
especially if you made it this far. Also, comment down below suggestions on whose career you would love to talk about next. And with that, let's get right back into this video because we aren't quite done talking about the Sharpe brothers. He made a few appearances on ESPN before joining Skip Bayless on what was formerly Undisputed, which was a huge opportunity. However, as soon as he got that great news, some unfortunate news would be brought to his
I
attention.
was diagnosed with prostate cancer in 2016, Ocho. I was going to take the job at Fox. I started getting checked in my 30s, Ocho, because of my family history. Dr. Vanderquala, I never forget. He's like, well, since you moving, you going to LA, won't you just come in and get your routine, get your colonoscopy? And I knew something because normally when I do this, he would call me. Hey, everything looked great. Your labs came back. Your PSA is fine, blah, blah, blah. This time, there was a lady called. She was like, I want to talk to you about your labs with your colonoscopy. They talk about removing the prostate. That's what mess with your meat. Nah, y'all ain't moving nothing. Ain't nothing. Whatever God gave me, I'm going to keep it. Right. And so I had to get blood work drawn for like every 6 months for like 2 years. And I've been in remission ever since.
So just like his dad before him, Shannon would unfortunately be diagnosed with cancer. Thankfully, he caught it early enough, and Shannon would go on to win this battle with cancer. He would go on to create some of the most memorable moments in his media career.
I be on the miles with that yank hard yesterday, Skip. I be on these miles of hen dog, and now y'all got problems with me. Let me celebrate.
Serge Ibaka, Chewbacca, Waka Flocka. Lakers in 5.
That ain't no problem. That ain't no problem. Huh? That ain't no problem.
Because you can't stand it that Tom Brady at 45 is still playing this game at a very high level. Yeah.
You see these numbers?
Yeah.
These numbers say Tom Brady's not playing at a high level.
This is just straight hate by a guy who's jealous that he is still playing at a high level at 45 when you had to stop at 35.
Skip, I did what I did. You make it seem like I was a bum. I'm in the effing Hall of Fame.
Okay,
I got 3 Super Bowls.
So what?
So what?
He's way better than you were.
You would take a personal shot at me.
I didn't take a personal shot at you.
Wait a minute.
What are you talking about?
You would take a personal...
Put your glasses back on.
Can I finish? You're willing to take a personal shot at me to say this man is better than me because I say he's playing bad this year?
Well,
you would disrespect me to support him.
No, well, I'll support him over anybody because he's the greatest player who ever played your game, and it's by far.
Have at it.
Okay,
Take off, bro.
I'm going to have at it.
All I ask is when you lay your head on that pill at night, know I gave you everything I had.
Let's fast forward to a moment in time where Shannon would leave one situation in order to receive some of the biggest blessings that he would see in his entire media career. The duo of Skip and Shannon Sharpe parted ways on June 13th, 2023. A show that introduced many to Shannon off the field had to end in order to take him to an entirely different level. Shannon Sharpe would become one of the biggest names in sports media and media in general. His show, Club Shay that started sometime around 2020, was already gaining some steam, but it would grow even more. And as we would see an old dynamic duo die, a new one was born. And he never once forgot the reason why he was so driven for success, as well as the person who would give him the entire blueprint. And now that person would finally be recognized for his greatness as well.
What y'all got going on here?
Welcome, bro.
To
Pro Football Hall of Fame.
To your house?
Pro Football Hall of Fame, class of 2025.
Being the first brothers inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
My grandfather was very, very hard on my brother. My grandmother said, Barney, why are you so hard on Spanky? He said, Mary, everything that little one is going to learn, he's going to learn it from him. It's his job, because we're not going to be around Mary long. It's his job to teach him how to be a man. It's his job to teach him right from wrong. He's going to follow everything that he does because that's what he sees all the time. For my brother to do what he's done with no guidance, with no instruction manual to get to where he got, to get me to where I got.
Sterling Sharpe would become the first player from South Carolina to be selected to the Hall of Fame. The Sharpe brothers became the first brothers both in the Hall of Fame. And this story shows you that no matter the circumstances that you are in, there is a way for you to make it. These brothers truly defied every single odd against them. But at the end of the day, every single person in this world has their own story. In order to find out more of those, click right here and binge watch this channel.